Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Service Delivery Committee meeting today for the 14th of May. And I understand that Susan is joining us online. Welcome, Susan. Good to see you.
Morning.
Thank you. So we're open with a karakia, and I ask if Dal Marie would kindly provide us with a karakia to start. Thanks.
Tēnā tātou I te whare, tākiri mai te ata, ura te ata, kāke te ata, uru mai te ao. Uru mai te ao te tangata ki ana rerenga ki tōna kaua, tēnei te ao. He ao marama, I rungo whakairia, huie, tai ki.
Thank you. Now, are there any apologies?
Councillor Gower.
Yes, so we've got Councillor Gower, we think, because we understand he's attending a conference. So, yeah, cool. No others. So could I have a mover and a seconder, please? So I've got Phil and Liz. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Disclosure of members' interests. Any interest to disclose? Cool, great. Any late items? I'm not aware of any. No, thank you. So confirmation of the order of the meeting. Thank you, Lou. And the seconder, thank you, Andrew. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And then we have the confirmation of our open minutes held on the 19th of March. So those have been pre-circulated. Yeah. So have I got a move in and a seconder that they be a true and correct record? Mike's going to move and Bruce is going to second. Thank you. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And we move into our first item of business, which is the Waipa Community Facilities Trust 6-monthly report. And she's Shane Walsh there, and I'm sure I saw Matt as well. Welcome to our meeting, and please come and sit up at the top table. Brad, are you going to introduce it, or? Yep, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and just remember, gentlemen, to press that green, the microphone button so the green light comes on so we can hear you and people online can hear. Thank you. Okay, over to you, Brad, then.
Nā mihi o te ata, tātou. Yeah, I'll just take a very brief moment to introduce these gentlemen who will be very familiar to you already, Matt Horn and Shane Walsh from Waipa Community Facilities Trust. This is their 6-monthly report to December 2023, and I think we'll take the report as read, but I'm sure Matt and Shane will take a few highlights of their report as well, so we'll hand over to them.
Okay. Yeah, good morning to everyone. Thank you for having us. We're just going to talk about our 6-month report and how we're tracking. It is a bit late and we apologise for that. It clashed last month, fortunately, the times.
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
there it goes.
Took away to warm up.
Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, just talking about our non-financial report, upcoming news, fees and charges for 24-25, and then just a high overview financial report. Yeah, so year to date, we've had 192,000 people, and this is July through to December, through the facilities. It's up about 16,000 and 6.5 or 9.3%. Majority of that would be Period Aquatic Centres doing very well. Then a couple of our other services like the gym have been doing quite well this year. When breaking it down just a little bit more, the event centre, 116,000 people through to December. It's about 5.6% above the same time last year, just over 6,000 people. The stadium's up about 3,000 people. 19% increase in there, which is pretty good because we did have a big drop, which was affected by COVID. Out of all the services that we provide, COVID affected the stadium the most, getting that organised there. Period Aquatic Centre, and I see it just won an award recently, so it's continuing pretty well. 76, so about 10,000 people more. If we put that into context, that's almost about a month's worth of people additional tracking over there, and we're on track to break the 150 barrier for the year. The gym, once again, that's up about 11%. Membership's doing really well. Been over the 1,000 members for a while, actually over the 1,200 members for a little while now. So doing quite well there. Swim Waipa's up overall, and it goes to show with Perry Aquatic Centre's swim school being more established. And it's in its second full year, and the facility's just about to be open for 3 years to the public in about a week's time. So time flies, really, and think about it. So it's had 30,000 people through, and we're averaging just under 2,000, so almost 1,000 people either side for the year. About 2,000 people for the whole, if we take the whole TA and Perry Aquatic Centre, and it's roughly about 1,000 people on the inside. They're almost even. I expect Cambridge to slightly be higher than the Te Awamutu side, being a bigger population base over time. Health and safety, we are down slightly all, but looking at the stats from April last year, we've kind of caught up, and that's just the amount of people being through. And, more people means more accidents around us, little cuts, bumps, nothing too major, touch wood. But it's just the nature of our business, I guess. Kids excited and things like that.
Madam Chair,
I'll just check whether or not you're happy to take questions or.
certainly.
Okay, yeah,
Chair.
but you should ask me first. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
yeah, thank you. Just, I think I might have probably asked before, what's trespassed? You've got 8 there, trespassed.
Yep.
But,
So last year, we had 8 people trespassed year to date for the 6 months. This year, we've had none in the first 6 months of the year. So we were 8 improved. So just the behaviours of people or better control this year,
what is trespass?
where we banned them for 2 years. They've done an act or done something that warrants that level of banning from the facilities. And if you're banned from, obviously, the TA side, you're banned from both the facilities for us and things like that. So whether it's threatening or aggressive behaviour, inappropriate behaviour, these are the things that, we kind of have to deal with, the staff have to deal with. So on track, we just had one last month, so we've got at least one this year. Pool water quality, so the national average that we're supposed to beat is 85, that's the blue line, and you can see both facilities tracking well above that. So still pretty good if you come to the pools, and I know Sally's a big user. I'm pretty sure if the water quality wasn't good, she'd tell me. Our customer feedback. Once again, more people, a lot of suggestions, which is kind of good. The public giving us feedback, what they'd like to see and what they'd like to have, and improvements. Compliments are slightly up, valids are about the same, and non-valid complaints are roughly about the same, which is pretty good considering another 16,000 people through the facilities. Annual customer satisfaction survey. So we open it to the public for 3 weeks, and in that 3 weeks we had over 1,100 responses, and overall customer satisfaction index was 80. It's up 3% from last year. So that's achieved a very good performance from last year's, which was good performance but potential for improvement. The only area that's down slightly is the pool side of at TA, the Livingstone Aquatics, was slightly down at 1%. But it is hard to compete with a brand new shiny thing across the other side. So yeah, high ratings. It's just the tracking. So you can see how we're tracking over the years that the trust has been operating. The average from the 10 years that we've been open to the public is 79, and the last year was 80. So maintaining or trying to steadily improve. You'll see the drop around 2022, 2021 from 83 to 75, and that was the COVID period where I don't think anyone would have had a good response from the public. Annual fees and charges. We don't apologise that we're at the higher end. We think that Waipa provides a great service, especially if you look around our area or our neighbours. I think the facilities that Waipa provides is fantastic. And generally our service, I believe our service is pretty good. So we haven't touched our casual fees and charges for the public for the upcoming year. I know it's going to be tough for us, and I'm probably putting the weight around my neck, but I think, you know, we want to be value for money as well as trying to provide a great service.
So Matt, just on that, so how much are you planning to increase your fees from next year, from the 1st of July?
No increase in the casual fees and charges that I'm showing. Our other services like the gym and our swim school will change,
Oh, right, okay.
but not
Good to
the
clarify.
general public come
Okay.
in and use the facilities. We've tried to keep them same.
Thanks, that'd be
We
great.
know it's tough times, so we're trying to balance that out. So putting pressure on the staff and their departments to do better.
Okay, no,
And,
thanks,
We'll
that's
see at the end of
appreciated.
next year if that worked. There's just a couple of events, so you can see more than pictures than writing. Some of the events that we had a boxing event, wheelchair rugby, prize givings, Puanui River Key Open Community Day. We've had magic netball there. We've had karate tournaments, cat shows, if anyone went to the cat show.
I've just got a question from Liz at the moment.
Oh, actually, I'm going to the cat show on Saturday. I'm quite
Yes.
looking forward to it, actually. Hey, so one of the things I'm interested in, I see you've got lots of great one-off events, and look, hopefully they'll come back. But are there any other trends coming through for the stadium where you see new codes of sport, or are there any kind of, you know, more trendy new sports that are coming through that you see and that, you know, might be helpful for us to understand?
Shane's got a favourite.
Well, yeah, I'm basically here in terms of governance or strategy in terms of my role as the chairman. But the board has asked Matt to focus on trying to use the event centre more. And so racquetball is one that I think we mentioned last time that we were here. So he's made some progress on that. He's also been looking for someone who is like a community outreach person to try to encourage people to come in. And also we're looking at, instead of relying on organisations to book it to do things, that we actually provide an event that people come to, and then we become masters of our own destiny instead of just waiting for someone to decide to organise a netball tournament or something, or a basketball tournament. We'll organise a tournament and then run it ourselves and get people there. So it is, the board is focusing on what we can do to increase the amount of people that go through that facilities, and racquetball's been one of those things.
Racquetball, the paddle tennis.
And paddle tennis as well, not racquetball, pickleball.
He's not meaning racquetball, he's
Pickleball,
meaning
sorry,
pickleball.
pickleball, yeah,
It's just played on a badminton-sized court.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so we've got badminton courts, so you can use that for pickleball. So that's what we're looking at doing. And internationally, that's really taking off.
So those events, I must say, are on top of our regular users like mini ball, netball, basketball tournaments that we have. So the community events that are more regular through the events, those events are on top of those bookings. So our challenge is trying to fill the stadium during the day when people are at work or at school. After those hours, we don't have trouble filling them. So something we will continually work on. As part of the LTP and long-term plan, the 30-year plan, we're kind of looking at the space that's around the facility. If anyone knows everyone knows the event centre, all around the back there's the open space. So we've done a high-level master plan and sent that through to council. And that's just adding some things that this is high level, there's been no budgeting or anything like that. It's just saying with the space that we've got, what can we do as a master plan? And we'd been talking with other groups and things that we could do that we'd like to advance and strategically look at as we move forward and population base grows and we need to offer more services. So on this plan here, I don't know if it's too clear, if everybody's got it in front of them. If anyone knows, or everyone knows the TA Event Centre and the pools, there's no outside pool. And so we're looking to, if you know where the playground is, on the northern side of the playground, looking to put an outside 25-metre pool there. There's also an extension or an additional hydro slide. And with the result of the splash pad over in the Pere Aquatic Centre, which is the zero depth playground, water playground for the kids, we've asked to put one in there. You can probably see it on the next one. I don't know, that one there, sorry. It's to the right-hand side, and you'll see a little blue kidney shape at the bottom right, next to the green area. Put in a little splash pad there, and you'll see an extra hydro slide and then the outside pool. Additional to that, if you go to the stadium side, extend the corridor down, add another court. A lot of the key events that we'd like to do is we can't hold the higher level events, say, like Magic Netball for actual games because of we need the seating capacity and the space around the court. There's requirements for that and to hold more tournaments, and then also some space for community users. And then carrying on down the court behind the pool, you'll see an apricot kind of colour. Don't know if it's got a laser. The squash court's being moved from the corner of Churchill Street there across. They've shown interest about developing and moving their facilities over. It doesn't meet earthquake standards, so if they do something, they have to then raise the whole building. And then to modernise doubles and movable walls so you can make multi-purpose courts and bringing them together as a unit at the one-stop shop type scenario. So that's what we'd like to do, and it probably will be stages and things like that, but it's just actually using that space and making something out of it in the future for the community. And the good thing that the council's done and the community have done is, we're one block over from the CBD. You've got the libraries, you've got the playground, you've got the pools and stadiums, and not many places can say that with the great services. And that's just adding on to that, just a big hub. Any questions? Anyone got any questions on there? Because it might be a bit of a, and that's roughly what the 3D view would look like. If everyone can see that. That's our vision, and so we've submitted that.
Yeah, it's our vision, but it's also we've spoken to the Squash Club, and so Squash New Zealand has a strategy for squash in New Zealand, and the doubles, I found it quite interesting that the double games is really taking off. So as the population get older and they can no longer run around the singles courts, they can still run around the doubles courts. So what you do is you have 4 single courts and you just can move the walls, and then suddenly you've got 3 double courts. So they need a facility in New Zealand where they can have tournaments for playing doubles and squash, etc. So, we believe we have a great opportunity in Te Awamutu to provide that with these facilities. Also, the Te Awamutu Boxing Academy has shown interest in having a space here as well. And as you know, they look after young people. It's not only about boxing, it's about youth, etc. And they are looking for another space, and that would be an ideal location for them. I think the other interesting thing too is when people come to watch squash, they come with families. The children like to go swimming. The athletes like to use the gym and like to go swimming as well. So to have one facility where everything is in one place would be a great asset for the Waipa. So it's a 30-year plan. Where's the money going to come from? We don't know. But we like to think well ahead.
So just finishing off the report, it's just a high level financial report and how we're tracking for the 6 months. You can see that our income is up about 92,000. Operational funding is in line with council's 2.5%. And then overall the revenue's up about 125. everything costs more. So there's a couple of red numbers there. Wages, chemicals, rates, power, everything's going up. Everything operationally is going up. So you can see the spend. So the surplus there of halfway through the year is $60,000, but do not be alarmed that that's quite high because we haven't done the now we've finished the maintenance period. The bills will come in and that money will be sucked up pretty quick. So that's just a roughly high overview of the first 6 months financially, how we're tracking.
Thanks. Now I've just got a question from Mayor Susan online. Susan, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Shane. Look, it wasn't a question, it was just an observation. I was just going to say I'm so pleased to see that you're talking with and collaborating with the squash club. Obviously, I'm no longer a member, but it was for some time, and there's always been a lot of interest in working out where their future lay in Te Awamutu, and certainly the doubles game, as you've noted, is a growth area in the sport, which is growing. So my understanding is that the Devoy Centre, Susan Devoy Centre in Tauranga is the only doubles court in the northern part of the North Island. So we would be the only club to have doubles courts in the Waikato and could therefore host tournaments of that nature. So look, really pleased to see it's on your horizon, and obviously the issues around funding will resolve themselves in the fullness of time, but it's really good to see that you've got those plans afoot. Well done.
Okay, thank you.
And I've got a question now from Hinerangi.
Kia ora, sorry for arriving fashionably late. You're concentrating quite a lot on sporting activities. Have you considered cultural, arts, for example, kapahaka performances? Are you set up to be able to host those sorts of things?
Yeah, we do.
We do host a lot of the events. We do the kapahakas every year and have a number of groups come through. When the sporting groups come through, a lot of them do the cultural stuff and have days, part of it's cultural, part of it's sport. The stadium at this stage is not really set up for staging performances, i.e. the lighting, rigging and things like that. To have those type of systems in, I think there'll be a lot of building structural thing in the roof that needs to have those parts to carry the weight. But we haven't really, to be honest, we haven't really considered that because generally we're a leisure and sports facilities and haven't looked at the arts side as much. But it's something to take into consideration. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also school plays and things like that that could also be an option for you. I think because they're real crowd drawers, those sorts of things. So I think there's an opportunity there. I think it'd be a great investment. Kia ora.
Thank you.
And now I've got a question from Bruce.
Matt, just the coffee trial with the period quad, how did that go over the summer period?
Hit and miss, to be honest. We've recently done a survey on it. The major feedback or the common theme, there was a number of things. People were talking about completely other things when we asked for the survey and asked them questions. Oh, what about the parking? What about bike pass? And no, thank you for that. The common theme, I'd said, the most common theme was they wanted an indoor seating area, so it didn't matter whether the weather was good or bad. It was our first trial, and more than likely, it'll be a summer thing in the interim going forward. We do have a building consent for a cafe, and then we've got that for 5 years, and we may continue to keep renewing that as a side thing. It's the challenge is having enough people to then use it, but also providing the services so they can use it. That's the challenge. So we're looking at options initially, probably for the next summer, to do the same thing, but how we run it might be self-operated. Do we buy a building and then self-operate it with staff, or do we get another provider, for example, a coffee place up the road, and they do a satellite site for the summer period? Did you want to?
Yeah, so we're definitely persevering with the idea. And so the idea of so we had someone in there serving coffee in a cart, and they decided that it was something they wouldn't be able to afford to do long term, that it wasn't viable for them. So then we decided to do a survey to see what our customers want, And I haven't personally seen the results of that survey yet, because that's only just been done recently. And then we'll make a decision based on that. But the idea of us actually building a cafe, it's financially, it just doesn't make any sense. You just don't make enough money to cover the cost of the asset. So we are definitely looking for coffee cart thing. It's just a question about, do we have an outside operator or do we do it ourselves? And so we're going through that sort of decision-making process at the moment.
Thank you. Now, Mike, were you going to ask a question?
Yeah, thanks to the chair. It's a question sort of outside the report. It's around the water quality. And I saw the national accepted level is 85%. But two questions really. One is, what would 85% look like in a pool complex? I'm thinking 85% is a fairly low bar, but just tell me. And then do we put submissions into Water New Zealand or whoever sets that bar to say, actually, is it the right standard?
Yeah, through Madam Chair. Yeah, 85 I think is quite an easy target to hit. But I think the people from a national body looking at it overall, they're thinking about school pools, and you've just got the caretaker looking after the pool or volunteers looking after the pool water quality. So 85 might be the standard so people don't get sick more than that stunning cracked glass look. Especially remote small school pools or facilities. So they kind of have to look overall at everybody. I would doubt if many urban centres would even get close to that. When we do get closer, we start dropping around the high 80s or the low 90s. They're minor things, and it depends on what type of setup. So we have salt-generated chlorine, and so the issue with that, you get what's called TDS or total dissolved solids as a byproduct. They're really micro, you couldn't even see them. But if they're high through no fault of your own, because you use that instead of, say, chlorine gas, the TDS, and you just, as you put the data in, it says that bit's a fail. And it might be 1200 as your upper benchmark. You're not allowed to be over that. You might be 1205. And suddenly you fail that area. But technically that's not going to hurt or kill anyone or anything like that, make them sick. But it's just the way that has to be reported. So that gives you the results. And that technically is the thing that fails us from being almost 100%. And that's an average. So the plant's working 100% all the time, and we've got automatic dosing. So we set the parameters, say it's 3 parts per million is the chlorine level. And as the bather load changes, the stuff goes, and then our staff are testing on top of that. So sometimes it is reactive because you don't know when a bather load's getting in, or if you do the water treatment course, you probably don't want to swim in a pool again. But, things like that.
Yeah.
And I will say, use it in the morning when it's been filtering all night. So things like that, especially if you've got high bather loads and good using. I mean, you've got all sorts of makeup and people and things like that. But it is quite a good standard. And you'll see different pools are actually easier to maintain because they have higher turnovers. You've got a big volume and a slow turnover. A lot harder to maintain as well.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Matt. And hey, just on those 30-year concept plans, absolutely excellent. And as Mayor Susan said, good to see some other organisations being looked at being brought in, even at this early stage, and just have that conversation. To spark a bit of interest, with the boxing John Fury, he'd get you some headlines. Guys like him, but yeah, just good to see a bit like that TA Sports thing where you're trying to bring another coast to sort of make something in the end financially viable and feasible. So good on you.
Jane did talk with TA Sports as well.
I did have a conversation with them just to make them aware that we're looking at a 30-year plan, and what can we do together? We're in the same town. How can we work together? And so they're taking that to their board as well, and so we might hear back from them.
Thanks a lot, gentlemen. So that's the end of your presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And we've sort of used our time allocation as well. So I just want to say thank you very much. It's always great to hear from you. You always tell a great story, actually. Congratulations on doing an awesome job for our community. And yeah, we look forward to hearing more about the 30-year plan. Thanks. It's really great to see that really high-level strategic thinking being done. Thank you. Okay, guys, I think we've got a resolution to receive that report. So I've got Andrew's going to move and Dale Marie's going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. All right, so now we have the Community Services Activity Report and Brad's still with us. Okay, excellent, Brad. So would you like to take over for your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morena anō. So again, I'll take the report as read. Just a few highlights from the report. The first one being that the Te Amuru War Memorial Park playground renewal construction commenced in February. Went really, really well and was actually open last week. The feedback I received over the weekend has been really positive. Lots of people down there enjoying the space, activating the space, which is fantastic. There will be an opening celebration of the playground on Sunday the 26th, so it'd be great to see as many of you there as possible. Feel free to come along. One of the pieces of this playground that has been a bit of a point of difference or an engagement piece for it is the artwork of tuna, raupo and poppies alongside some of the other key elements, tying it back into that memorial side and also the whenua and mangahoi. So a lot of that was done in partnership with Mana Whenua. So yeah, getting some of those ideas, which have been fantastic. Moving on, following the discovery of Dutch elm disease in the Rohi, the teams worked really swiftly to put some processes and procedures in place. This has included a standard operating procedure, which was developed really swiftly and provided to all the arborists that we know operating in the district. This actually led to another suspected discovery near Mangatauteri. So far, there's no known infected trees on council managed land, but we continue to do further planning to understand what the impacts may be in our area if it was to get into one of our trees. The Te Amuru Museum and Districts Museum facilitating, the Waipa Heritage Forum. One of them was held in February at the Kiki Police Temple Cottage. The forum is a great way for our team to collaborate and support the other heritage providers in the district. And yeah, it's been a really good process to link everyone back up. They used to have this before COVID, but then it was delayed. You know, they stopped meeting for 2 or 3 years there. So it's been great to connect them back in together. They just had another one recently over at the Cambridge Museum as well, where they shared their new exhibition, which they opened earlier this year. And finally, we've had a couple of Dino Days now. The first one was in January, Dino Day, sorry, not Dino Days. And great success. So many tamariki and whānau coming through to experience that. The last one we had recently had over 400 people in attendance, which was phenomenal. Created a few logistical challenges for the team, but hey, great to have people really connected to that. So yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Those are great highlights. In fact, I must say with that heritage group, I meet up with, the Pirongia Heritage and Information Centre, and they did pass on to me that they get heaps out of those meetings, and they're so pleased to see them started up since COVID. Yeah, so excellent work there. All right, any questions? I've got Phil.
Yep. Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Brad, for your great report. Just a couple of things. Obviously, it's a real shame to see all this damage, this continuous damage done on playgrounds and toilets. And to me personally, the most disturbing one is cemeteries, which is just awful, that is. But if we can just keep the pressure on the security firms and things like that to make sure that they're fulfilling their contracts and things. I know there's various groups and organisations out there that are concerned about that as well. So if we could just keep on to that. And then just secondly and lastly, with the new bylaws and now with dogs and things like that, the signage around the parks and things, when's that getting done? There's a bit of confusion with the Victoria Square, with the signage there. It's old from the previous bylaw. When's that likely to get done? The signage there with, daylight saving and times and things like that. So yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Coles, and through the chair. I'll follow up on that one. I'm not sure of the time frame. We're working with Cal Tati's team who look after the dog compliance side of things. So and they do the vast majority of the signage there. So I'll come back to you on that one. I don't have that timeframe at hand at the moment.
Okay, thanks. So now I've got Monty and Liz and then Susan online. Thanks.
Brad, just a question about Lake Te Kutu, the Waharoa down on Albert Street. We received a little bit of a challenge last week that maybe that had been put on the back burner. Could you just clarify where we're at with that?
Kia ora, yes, again through the chair. So we're still doing the design work through that at the moment, through this financial year and probably into next financial year as well. We just moved the construction or the implementation of it back a year just with the enhanced annual plan. Just in terms of timing, there's still a bit of that mahi to do in that design space. So we thought that by moving it out a year, say, would align better just with how the project's tracking.
Cool, thanks, Liz.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. You may not be able to answer this. It may be a question for one of the elected members on the Heritage Fund Committee. I just wanted to check the one of the applications, the electrical rewiring of Karapiro Hostel. I'm unaware of a hostel. I think I know the place you mean, but it's not a public one. Is there some more information on why that would get heritage funding?
Doesn't have to be public.
I can answer that in part, I think. Doesn't have to be a public building for it to be considered for a heritage grant. But yeah, I don't have any other information at hand at the moment, but to be able to, I can let you know a bit more about that later on. But yeah, it doesn't have to be just on public, but available to receive the funding.
Thanks. Okay, I've got Susan and then Lou.
Hi, Brad. Hey, thanks for your report. I was going to ask the same question as Monty in terms of that Waharoa, so thank you for that clarification. The other point too, in terms of Lake Te Kutu, is you mentioned there on our page 33, your page 5 of your report, that there's a vegetation management plan being addressed, or what is it? Incorporated, if you like. Yeah, have we really got the resource to fulfill those plans at the end of the day, or will it just be sort of another aspirational type of plan? Because it's pretty obvious from that comment in there that there's a challenge around resourcing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Through the chair, it will give direction around what's going to be our priority areas for that site. And potentially we do have funding through the current long-term plan to implement some further vegetation, plantings and things in there. So by having that focus area and how we're going to tackle that park in terms of the restoration of it, will give us a bit of a, we're going to be doing this area this year, and subsequent priority zones, I suppose, to inform that future planting and maintenance. We will have access to contractors if our staff can't do that, who will be able to manage some of those deeper sites. And most crucially, it's going to be a case of once we do remove those weed species, what's going in behind it. So we need to have a planting program that will actually, take over that space instead of the weed species. At the moment, we don't have that direction or the budget to, the operational budget for the planting is still coming. So we don't want to just go away and take those weeds away and then they'll come back again and again and again, or otherwise potentially even cause some subsidence if we remove things wholesale. So it's how we manage those priority sites.
Yeah, and you're right. It has to be well sort of sequenced too, right? I guess just as an observation, both Lake Te Kutu and the Te Awamutu War Memorial Park, those vegetation management plans are kind of hotly discussed, I guess, because they're very visible in terms of not being addressed, I suppose. So just want to make sure that there's appropriate resource, if you like, in the fullness of time allocated to meet what those plans are. So thank you for that. And my second and final question is in respect of program participants at the Te Awamutu Library. So on our page 48, your page 20, I see that there's an what is it, that expectation or the target is quite an unusual uptick there in terms of people attending, which of course it's fallen reasonably short of. Was there something that led to that Te Motu participant target with such an uptick like that? Wouldn't it have been? Is there something I'm missing? Shouldn't it just have been steady in terms of the growth of the population rather than a sort of almost like a hockey stick kind of uptick?
Thank you. Yes, I can see what you're talking about there. Through the chair, I think the way we measure those stats at the moment is a percentage increase on the previous year. So you'll see there's quite a big increase from the previous year to that, which is probably causing that uptick. It's gone to 367. So that's what I would think it would be. I can do a little bit more research behind that and come back to you with a bit more information if you like, but that's how I think it's reflecting.
Okay. I can kind of understand that, but you sort of, I don't know, you're almost setting yourself up to fail a little bit, I would have thought, by assuming you're going to have exponential uptake like that, I suppose. I would have personally thought it would have been better to have a lower aspiration and exceed rather than have a higher one and fail in respect of those sorts of that sort of data. But anyway, look, thanks for your report, Brad. Cheers.
And sorry if I could, through the chair, I think that is something that's been looked at through the next long-term plan and how we measure our targets and things like that as well. So yeah, I'll take that back to the team. Yeah,
I don't so much as want to, be really low and have no aspiration, but I think you also have to be realistic a little bit too. But thanks, Brad, great report.
Thanks, Susan. And now I've got Lou.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Brad, just a quick question. With Memorial Park, we have there, of course, the fountain. Okay. We're looking at organising a VJ Day, which is a Victory over Japan Day, as a memorial service. Traditionally, we like to utilise the location around the fountain as it represents, of course, a nuclear explosion. Just wondering whether there are funds in the system or anything to actually have that operational or doing anything towards improving its current state.
Yeah, through the chair, we can certainly have that operational on the day. We don't have it going up continuously because it currently uses town water supply, so we just manage that usage. But we can certainly have it turned on for the day. Yeah.
I'll keep in contact with you over that. It's just that we thought that we'd be missing these particular services, and we just felt that we wanted to make them utilise the park a bit more for some of those services. Just one other thing I could mention to you, the rewiring of the Kapurei Hostel. That hostel is the Lectorium Rosicrucium. Okay, it is an old building, and it actually takes vulnerable people and hosts them there over a period of time. And then they came to us, it's a heritage building, and the wiring apparently did not comply with the regulations for actually having a hostel. So that is what we went through this process to say that as such, we grant them a small amount.
Is it a heritage building? That was really my question. I
Yeah, it was
suppose
a heritage-
it's over
it is a
100 years
heritage
old.
building.
Could someone turn your, I think you, microphone off. Yeah, good.
It's a heritage building and it's a religious organisation. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. And then I've got Bruce, and I think that's the last question. Oh, no, I've got Mike as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Brad, the security cameras at Bulmer's Landing, they're having some effect. Are they linked into our system here? How are they monitored?
So those ones aren't directly linked into the system, no.
So how do you pick? Are they just there's a recording system, obviously.
That's right. It captures data, and we access that as we need to.
Okay, thanks. And then Mike, and I'm hoping that's the last question.
Yeah, thanks for the chair. Page 9 of your report, Brad, page 37 of ours, just back to that Heritage Fund. It's a bit of a general question, maybe. That Mangatauteri Ecological Island Trust Fund of $7,000. So the council give the trust like significant money, and I know when I was on the community board, there was something written there that you sort of, if you applied for one fund from the council, you couldn't apply for another. Does that still exist, or how does this work into that? Or the main money we give isn't a grant, it's something else?
Yeah, thanks if I could through the chair. So yeah, we provide them operational funding to operate Mangatauteri for us.
Right.
we do take into consideration as both staff and then the elected members on the Heritage Fund Committee, other funding that's been provided by council or even external funding to organisations when we do consider that. So the operational money that we give to them is purely that, like very much nuts and bolts. Some of the things that come through from Mongatotu and others sort of around maybe capital investment to support them in their works or other specific projects. So
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Brad. No other questions, so we'll wrap things up. Just say thank you very much, for your report. Excellent work being done, and keep up the hard work. So I've got a resolution that the Service Delivery Committee received the report of Brad Ward. Okay, I've got Philip Coles is going to move and Lou Brown's going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Okay, and now we have the transportation activity report, and I see Brian Hudson arriving there. So welcome, Brian. And this is on page 49 of our agenda. Welcome, Brian. Over to you.
So thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just take the report as read and just cover off a few highlights there. Obviously, at this time of year, we're moving into winter, so we get into more just managing roads, potholes, and rather than major works. So the road reconstruction work is largely complete, and the resurfacing work is largely complete, with the exception of one asphalt site that we're still looking at the details of here in Te Amiru on Sloane Street. In that table on page 50, we see the general progress of our construction works, including cycle paths and other roading improvements. Popped in a little bit of information there. It might be of interest to you, the number of potholes patched in previous years and progress to date. It seems to be on people's minds these days, and as we move into winter, I guess it will be again. Made really good progress with closed circuit television camera installations over the last 3 months, with a number of new sites there installed, and some of them are up and running already. In the road safety space, we have had some inquiries from the public around children cycling on paths and through CBD areas and things like that. Complaints of sort of near misses, but both our road safety coordinator is active with training for students at schools, and you'll see also that police have been quite active in doing some patrols and talking to students about cycling behaviour and good cycling etiquette. Quite a few activities there under the waste minimisation program happening. In levels of service, there's an update there about recycling bin audits on page 60, showing that there's over 50,000 bins now have been audited, and generally 95% of compliance. So that's has crept up a bit. We were sitting at 94%, I think, or 93% when we first started. So it's crept up a bit. A relatively small number, less than 0.5% for suspensions. But you can see quite a bit of education needed there. But there still is some fairly high costs, around $50,000 per month to manage that contamination. Yeah. So that's removing contamination from the glass before it's trucked to Auckland, and but the bulk of that cost is removing waste that comes out of those mixed recycling bins.
Now I've got a question now, Brian,
Sure.
from Dale Marie, and then Mike. Oh, and then yours.
So, tēnā koe, Through the chair, I'm kind of looking at the ongoing cost that we seem to have. It's looking like we could employ somebody to deal with that contamination by the look of it. That's just the comment, but the one I do want to go back to is, when are we going to get some yellow lines on Rolleston Street?
Yes,
Yep.
sure, yeah. So that's
I was smashed
certainly,
about that all weekend.
yes. Yes, it's surprising that people are really quick to criticise a project which is not complete yet. And common sense would tell you that if somebody mistakenly parks a car on it, you can drive around it. It's not the end of the world. So those markings and things, obviously we want to get all the sealing done and tidied up before we run through and put all the markings down. We could come in and do some interim work, but I guess, yeah, there's people out there in the community who will find the smallest thing to poke criticism at, unfortunately, and yeah.
Subsequent comment.
Yeah.
We had a funeral procession come from Auckland. They came along that street and they were bloody confused. And that is only because there is so much work on that surface, the old stuff.
Yes.
I would want to say right outside 30, I don't know, not far from where that bloody car was posted on social media, but actually the funeral procession had a real navigation. The guy who drove the hearse actually said to me, because they directed him, she's at council, go and see her. And when I went along Rolleston a couple of times, if I am not a common user of that road, I would probably park on the road and yes, go around, but I'm just going to make the comment that there is so much on those roads that it is a little bit confusing for some people.
That's right. The old line work has been blacked out, but it's still showing through in places. So we will get that cleaned up in the final product. Yes, thanks.
Okay. Did you have a question? Yeah, I've just got Mike and then Bruce.
Yeah, just back through the chair, just back to the cycleway thing. I've had two staff and a parent just come to me over cars coming up from the warehouse end on Wilson Street up towards the sort of school. So they've obviously jumped on the cycle track. Clearly their cars aren't big enough because, you know, you'd know that your car doesn't fit there. But for some people, it's obviously still a little bit confusing. So maybe since the project's not finished, there's something else we could do to mitigate that. I'm not sure where they're jumping on. I'm making the assumption that it's somewhere down near the library or the warehouse. But
yeah, no, we've certainly spotted that. We've had some photographs sent in of that happening. So we know that was happening before the markings and things were complete on it. So we'll certainly be monitoring it to make sure that that doesn't continue to happen now that those markings are down.
Okay, thanks. Now, I think I had Monty and then Liz, were you in there too? Doesn't matter when you're.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've got two, if you'll allow me, one on roads, one on recycling. The roads one, could you just give us an update on the Victoria Road roundabout? You note in here there was a few design changes. Could you just give us a brief summary of what you've achieved there, or what changes were required?
Right, sure. So there were some inquiries from industrial users there in Hautapu areas saying, you know, is this roundabout going to be big enough for their very large trucks? So we did some work with them and with the Heavy Haulage Association and demonstrated that, yes, all of the really large trucks, including trucks with a house on it, you know, that's sort of 10 metres wide and 20 metres long, would fit through there. The designers did, you know, on taking some advice, provide a bit of extra space. So they've, on the curb on the cemetery side, they've put in more reinforcing and flattened that curb a bit, and are going to put some concrete behind that curb in case I guess a very long vehicle or an extra large vehicle needed some additional room so that they could actually mount that curb on that side. So yeah, those changes have been made to, I guess, belts and braces approach for it. But ultimately, the layout and islands and all that have remained the same because they are large enough for those big vehicles.
And so if, just in summary, in your view, were the heavy industrial users satisfied by the end of that process?
I believe so. Yes, certainly they've been, we've gone back to those organisations and showed them the revised plans.
Okay, and then just my recycling one, if I may, following Dale Marie's point, this 600,000 a year to solve 5% of your problem in recycling, it's not passing my common sense test. If we terminated those 5%, it strikes me as good return on our investment. What's your thinking in that space? Because this is going on and on and on, and we need to drive some behaviour change here. So I want to hear how you plan on doing that.
Yeah, so certainly, we've been doing that education, and it's out there in the newspapers at different times around the effects of contamination, what it costs, what it's costing the ratepayer. But there are those in the community that are hard to reach. They don't read the newspapers, or they do and they don't care. They're using the rubbish bin the recycling bin as a rubbish bin. So the only way we have to change that behaviour is to find them through the auditing process and suspend their service. So we know, look, I could tell you some stories from what we've seen, and how people have been, so deliberate in their actions to try and, circumvent, and including that they've been audited, they've had a sticker on their bin, they've removed the sticker and then moved their bin to the other side of the road to try and see if the truck driver will pick it up on the other side of the road. So that they try all sorts of things, but we are, making steady progress in identifying and stopping the service to those people who are abusing it. It is going to take time. Unfortunately, when there's some 22,000 properties that we are collecting bins from twice a month for their mixed recycling and once a month for glass, that's a lot of bins to audit and to find the culprits. Yeah. But we see it around the country. It is the same problem being faced by just about every council across the country with these services.
Thank you. Now I think Liz has got a connected question.
Yeah, just on the public transport, Brian. So it just one of our future-proof public transport subcommittees, they did indicate that there was quite a good monthly report, a really good breakdown that was now coming through of public transport numbers. So it'd be really great to see that sort of detail. So if that can be circulated, that would be brilliant.
In our workshop after this meeting.
Oh, really? Okay, brilliant. Okay, I have seen some information, but yeah, I wasn't quite sure what the report was, if it was something. So the basic, you're saying that the information they're providing you're forwarding on anyway. So that's certainly perfect. I guess my main question is around the increased services that we're now seeing throughout our district, which is brilliant, right? I mean, I've had a good look, and the increase in services, you couldn't really have asked more from Regional Council at this point in time, more than we hoped for, actually. So I guess my question is, I know it's more their responsibility to promote those services, but I'm looking at these buses that are coming in and out of Cambridge, and they're mostly empty. And I know it's early days. What can we do as a council to promote those extra services as well? Because, there's one coming through Cambridge quite late at night, and it just saddens me that it's empty, and I just feel like we really need to get the message out there. So is there something more that we can do? Because if we don't get them full or partially used, we will lose them. Simple as that. So we need to get those numbers. We just need to get our community knowledgeable about the new services that are available.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I fully agree with you. I've seen over the last few weeks, there's regular advertisements, quite large ones in our local papers. So certainly the message is out there. I think, certainly with our comms team, we might be able to use some of our avenues to promote it a bit more as well. I know it's, you see those buses sometimes with one or two people or sometimes empty, but the thing we have to remember is that they've got to whether there's people on them or not, they've got to stick to the timetable. So they've got to be there at the bus stop for the next journey. And so I've seen it myself in terms of when I've been using the buses myself to get to Hamilton for meetings, that, you know, sometimes on the way up, there's only a handful of people on the bus, but that journey coming back, the next one is, you know, got a really good number of people on it. So it is the way these things work. Sometimes the public will see the buses empty, but they've got to be running to be available. Yeah. But we certainly, will be promoting and hoping for a good upturn. And we'll see that, I think, relatively quickly in the next couple of months in terms of the numbers that come through as to how it impacts. But certainly also the word of mouth that I'm hearing from people out there is that they are enjoying the new electric buses, quieter, smoother. Talking with friends who are retired, you know, they're using their gold card, they're getting on the bus, getting to Hamilton, going to the movies, visiting grandkids and things like that. So I'm optimistic that we're going to see some really good usage. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Now, Roger, is anyone else waiting? Lou. Okay, so I'll let Roger go first and then Lou, if that's all right.
And it was just, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. And it was just in further to what Liz was saying there was some really interesting discussion at the Future Proof Public Transport Committee. I think it was last week. And one of the aspects of their reporting, which I think we had a little bit of a challenge getting directly in previous years, was the occupancy or the passenger numbers per departure, which now with this number of departures, I think it's becoming even more important for us to get that. But even more so than that is the short trip volume per departure. You know, the travel that's happening from Leamington to Cambridge and Cambridge to Leamington, so we can see how much of that local PT that it's actually meeting. So if you've got the opportunity to perhaps request that enhancement of the report, if it's not included, that would be really good.
We have got a little bit of that data in the workshop later.
Yeah, it's really good to see that. Appreciate the effort to put that in. Now, Lou, if you got a question, and Bruce, did you have one?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Just quickly, I certainly want to actually congratulate the council for moving forward with the circular economy intern with Charlotte. I think this is a great move, and I feel that we need to be, you know, we're on the front foot with this. I would just like to actually, ask her if she'd like to come down and have a look at an e-waste collection that we do once a month, and their battery collections that we're getting some funding for through Pack and Save. They're actually helping us with the funding, and I feel that we could actually, you know, link in with this and what we're doing in Cambridge as well as in Te Awamutu. So I'm really keen on that. The second point I wanted to raise is sitting on the Joint Committee for Civil Defence is disaster waste. Okay, this is a virtually important subject that has been pushed to one side in a lot of councils. Cyclone Gabrielle actually highlighted the fact that we just did not have in council the ability to move the waste that was created by a major event. So we need to be well aware of what we are likely to impact. And it's great to see that we're doing some training, and it's great to see that we are doing some regulatory work with this, because if we don't, we could be easily caught out with a major flood or an earthquake or something like that. So I'm just saying that it's a really great positive, Brian, and thank you very much for the work you're doing in these areas.
Good, thank you.
Okay, and then Bruce.
Thank you, Claire. Sorry to harp on about the contamination. I fully back what Monty said before, hit them hard if you can within reason. But do the trucks have the cameras on them anymore to identify that, what goes in?
They do, yes, they do. And they do occasionally see stuff that is being tipped out, but obviously people are often disguising this stuff, putting it at the bottom of the bin, you know, with good recycling on top of it, trying to disguise it. But yes, occasionally, and the truck drivers go to lengths when they do discover something like that in terms of setting the bin back down, pulling contamination out of the truck when they can and back into the bin and, pushing it back and sticking the notices on it. So they do have to go to quite some effort, and they are making that effort.
Thank you. Now I've got Phil and then Mike.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Brian, for your report. Just quickly, the footpath being replaced, improved down Albert Street, down against the lake there. Looks really good, and the new bollards and things like that. So I saw them busy working with a heap of staff, contractors on it last week.
Yes, I'm not sure I can take credit for that. I believe that's a Parks project, but I'll put my hand up and say I've done a great job.
So you got footpaths in your report. So yeah.
Okay.
Brad's smiling over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike. Yeah.
Okay. Well, well done, both.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Sorry to keep harping on about this contamination thing, which Monty's brought up, but a few questions around it. Do we have what's the methodology for finding? That's my first one. Like, it sounds like, let's say 5% of people get it wrong, and of that 5%, 10% of people get fined, 0.5%. Have we got a methodology around who we fine and why we fine them? My first question.
Yeah, so we don't actually have fines. What happens is, so the auditors are out there every day.
Stop the bins.
Yeah, they're checking as many bins as they can get through before the truck arrives. So there can be minor contamination, which might just be people have put, a whole lot of soft plastics, plastic bags and things in there, the things that they think are recycling, but they're not. And if there's enough of that sort of stuff, then they will, put a sticker on it saying, oops, you've made a mistake, push it back from the curb, and the resident has to go through, follow the instructions and sort it out and put their bin out when it's only got good recycling in it. But that bin is flagged, and then it's checked again at the next audit to make sure people have got the message and are doing the right thing. But those ones who are got gross contamination, so that's bags of rubbish and waste oil and paint and all sorts of things, that's an immediate suspension. So that bin's pushed back. They've got a notice, attached to the bin and a letter in their mailbox saying that because of the gross contamination, their service is suspended for 3 months. And they have to, sometimes there can be a genuine mistake. A child has gone out to the bins with a bag of rubbish and put it in the wrong bin because they've both got a yellow lid or something like that. And the resident then can make a pledge that, it was a genuine mistake, and they'll be more careful, and we can resume the service. But what we're finding typically, though, is that people who are suspended know that they have been abusing the service, and so they don't complain. They don't say, I've made a mistake. They accept that they've been caught. And that suspension, as I say, lasts 3 months, and then that property is on a list for regular checking in the future to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So thanks for that detail. I'm just back to, I think, Dale Marie's point of, hey, 50 grand, $50,000 a month, $600K a year. Is it worth doing a bit of a business case on this of, if we invested some resource into a staff member to actually maybe be on board with a truck, or however it works, we never clue, but to actually help that driver, make some, I don't know, just better informed decisions and get that. It is punitive, but I think the public need to be aware that this is just costing everyone. And the change, though it's happening, is really not fast enough, is what you're hearing from around this table. So I guess what I'm asking, Brian, is can we go away and just have a look at maybe how we can up the punitive side of things here to actually, so those people that are letting us all down get the message, and not just get the message, but actually by not being fined, but by taking the service away, reduces the 50 grand. So let's spend some of the 600K to try and make the problem halve or something.
Certainly appreciate what you're saying there, investment and return. So at the moment, the I guess the monthly investment around that auditing is around, I think about $7,000 or $8,000. And if we doubled that investment in auditing, had 2 auditors, could we halve the total contamination over time and so make a saving? So it's worth exploring that sort of thing further.
Thanks, Brian. Now,
Straight on that. The total cost of the service,
yeah,
off the top of your head, Brian, it's like 3 million a year or something, isn't it?
Yes, about 2.5 million.
Yeah, so 2.5 million a year, 600 grand on contamination. That's why I was saying it's not passing the common sense test. It's just not working.
okay, thanks. Now, Dale's got one, and I'm hoping that'll be the last question because we're out of time as well.
Right, kia ora,
Thank you.
Brian. Anō. I just want to make mention on camera that it did take a while at Raglan too to change that culture, to embrace better ways of doing things. So I commend you guys on the constant and the ongoing, because looking at the way Waipa has been doing things has been in line with some of our targets that we've promised overseas and internationally. So kanohi te mihi kia koutou. Kia kaha.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hoping that's wrapping it up. Thank you, Brian. Great record of work, yeah, and really appreciate, yeah, all the efforts that are being made there. So with that, we've got a resolution to receive the report from Brian. Mover, Mike's going to move, Lou's going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Cool, thank you. And now we have the Better Off funding update, and Sharon Patterson's going to report to us. Okay, that's on page 62. Welcome, Sharon. We don't see you very often, so lovely to see you here.
Good morning. So this report is to give you an update on where we're at with our Better Off funding, with the changes that have happened from moving from the water reform into the local water done well space. So we had an update from the Minister of Local Government in early April, basically saying that our funding, our 5.2 million that we've got our agreement for is safe, it's secure, we've still got that, but asking us to look at redirecting that into water infrastructure for any funds that we haven't spent or uncommitted. So staff have gone away and we've looked at those. We've looked at our current projects that were sitting under the Better Off funding, what stages that they're at, our commitments on those projects, and our actual cost to date, and then decided, what funds we could potentially transfer across. So as part of this report, we're also seeking approval from council that we can enter into discussions with DIA around our proposal here. So the table on page 5 of the report is sort of outlining each project and where we're at. So Te Arawai, we've got commitments on there of just over $1 million in actual spend. So we're looking to redirect 692 to the Waters Resource Recovery Centre, 1.1 redirection. Now, Lake Naroto, we haven't got any commitments on that one at this stage, and we haven't spent any money there, but we are going to see if we can retain that money for that project. Whether we'll be able to or not, we don't know, but the staff's recommendation is that we have a go and see if we can hang on to that 360K for that one. Our CCTV, that's all been fully committed. And then our cycleway, Te Aomuru, Naroto and Parongia, again, we've just got 400 of commitments on that and the balance to go to water infrastructure. And our Cambridge Library feasibility study, that's been completed, so a balance left on there of about 52,000 to transfer across.
So Sharon, I've got a question at the moment, so from Roger.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks. Just a clarification, the Te Arawai, the actual stroke commitment of $1 million, is that an actual spend or is that a commitment? And if it's a commitment, what is it a commitment to?
So that is a combination of both. So we've got actuals and commitments on there. So it's a commitment to finish off the design phase that was entered into. So once that's completed, which will be potentially by the 30th of June, then all spend on that project will be stopped because it's been paused.
It's a commitment to already contracted work
Yes,
for the design?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Sally's just,
Oh, Sally, I think Sally wants to speak to that.
If I can just add to that further through the chair, in terms of Te Arawai, you're aware at the March meeting, it was identified that the project would be put on pause. So post this report being completed for today's meeting, we've had our final PCG and are wrapping everything up. So commitments in terms of what's been referenced within this budget all need to be pulled back now because we have stopped all works on Te Arawai. So from that perspective, we're just going through those details at the moment and we'll have all that wrapped up. So the amount that's in here at the moment includes both commitments. So they were commitments for services that we've now stopped and we need to pull back those POs to reduce that amount to what's actually been charged to the project.
Could I have a point of clarification there as well? Just to make it clear to me, when you say you've pulled back, have you pulled back on the design work as well? So everything has actually been totally stopped?
That's right. So that was the resolution that council passed at the end of March, was
Yep.
to stop and pause all works. We've completed works up to a design concept level. And so we've done no further works from that point of view. But because we had contractors or commitments on board that were for the full design work to go out to meet external funding requirements, that's the wrap up that we've been doing at the moment and need to pull back those works that we're not going ahead with.
Oh, good. Thanks for that.
Okay, I've got a question from Mike.
But through the chair, Sally, just while you're in the chair there, otherwise I mightn't have asked it, you see. Hey, the Cambridge Library feasibility study, where that's got to, will that be presented back to us at some point, just where that's got to?
So the Cambridge Library feasibility study will be presented to council as part of the long-term plan process. So that's when you'll consider that project going forward. It's not appropriate as part of the enhanced annual plan, so that will be brought back to you at that time.
Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Liz. Yeah.
Sorry, Sally, just a quick query on that one. I know I'm a pain. Hey, so I'm just a bit nervous about that report taking so long to come back to the council committee because, the information is quite relevant. And I guess we understand that there's no capacity at the moment to fund it. But the report is quite interesting and I'm a little bit concerned that in 6 months' time, some of the data might be a little bit out of date. Would it be something that we could just, for information purposes, pass around to the elected members, not for discussion, not a workshop, just for information only? I think it would be quite helpful.
Through the chair, definitely can take that on board, but I think in terms of once we get back into the LTP process, I think those discussions around those projects will be pretty early on. And as far as I'm aware, the feasibility study is future proofing, so it's looking forward, so that data should not be out of date that quickly. So from that perspective, I think it'll come in earlier in terms of the timeframe of the LTP, which is not that far away for us.
Well, just on that, Sally, have you an idea, would it be shortly after July or something? So not that far away anyway?
I can't confirm the timeframes for you, but I would say that there will be discussions fairly quickly on after July around the LTP process.
Okay, I mean, I would actually be quite happy for it to be circulated earlier myself, if it was going to have some delay. I thought too, the Cambridge Community Board is probably quite keen to see it as well. Yeah.
Okay, noted, we can circulate that through.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, sorry for the interruption, Sharon. How you, back to you. How are you going there?
okay, so we're looking to redirect just over 2.7 million into water infrastructure. And that's excluding the Lake Naroto. If we don't get approved for the Lake Naroto, it'll be up around the 3.1 million. So staff have identified 2 projects potentially that this funding could go to. We've looked at the budgets and they're looking a little bit light compared to what the pricing and that we're getting in. So one of them is the Te Awamutu internal CBD rising main and the other one is the Alpha Street water treatment plant upgrade. So that would be, our recommendation would be to look at those two projects. The positive side of this is that those projects will be done next financial year, so that funding will be received next financial year. So it will give us a little bit more headroom in our debt to revenue ratios as well going forward. So yeah, happy to take any more questions.
That's good. Thanks. I did have a question about the transition support funding, which was mentioned in the minister's letter. Yeah, because that is also part of the budgets that's being reassessed and what could be given back. Yeah, because it wasn't part of the staff report, but could you just fill me in on what's happening there? Because I think it was about $600,000 or $800,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we did spend a portion of that, obviously, with the work that we did on the reform project. And then the balance we're looking to redirect to the local Water Done Well with in regards to resourcing. We're doing some work with CoLab at the moment on the Waikato Waters Done Well and stuff like that. So it's more looking at redirecting that money to the project of our next step and what we need to do to do our water service delivery plan, and that by the 30th of June 2025.
With the intention of retaining all of that funding and not giving any back to the GIA?
Yeah.
Cool. That's great. Thanks for that. All right. So, Andrew?
Yeah, this seems pretty straightforward and sensible, and yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. And Dale Marie's going to second? Yeah, excellent. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thanks, Sharon. Wonderful. Okay, so our next item is the notice of motion from the Tumuru and Kiniki Community Board. Yeah, okay. Thanks. Oh, welcome, Martin. I was expecting to see Kane too, but are you going to introduce the information? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if anybody else was speaking yet, so
Yeah.
it's going to take.
Oh, we have given Kane speaking rights, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, just 5 minutes, but anyway, welcome, Martin. Yeah, good to
We'll
see you
let Kane
here.
go first.
Yeah. So. Yeah, welcome, Kane. Yeah. Please take a seat. Yeah, good to see you here. Thank you. But we'll let Martin introduce the report. Yeah.
Just let Kane go, or introduce the report?
Well, I think if you introduce it and then let Kane have his time. So I'm just saying that we gave Kane the 5 minutes, and so we'll be ringing a bell and just giving him give you a notice when you come to 4 minutes. That's all. Yeah.
Cool. Good morning, all. Yes, this is a report from a notice of motion from the Timutu and Kihi Community Board around fluoridation. In essence, I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions once Kane's given his point of view.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Okay, over to you, Kane. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. The recommendations are designed to halt further wasteful ratepayer spend on fluoridation and to finally settle this issue by having an independent review of the science and/or a tribunal where both sides can be heard on this issue. I've sought the views of the Cambridge Community Board and hope we can have fluoridation on the agenda there soon. Cambridge Community Board's role is to advocate for the community to ensure democracy is observed. I can see another Cambridge Connection situations occurring there if this does not happen. Relating to the first recommendation, Waipawa District Council is now out of step with the majority of councils who have received the unlawful directive. Out of the 10 elected councils due to start adding the toxin this year, 8 have pushed back. 6 councils, the Far North, Whangarei, Kawerau, Tararua, Nelson and Waitaki, have requested extensions to their start date. 2 councils, Rotorua and Horowhenua, have paused work on their implementation. 1 council, Hastings, has started fluoridation, is now facing legal action. That hearing is on Thursday. Nelson City Council Mayor Dr. Nick Smith, formerly a National Party MP, organised the Nelson City Council extension. The extension discusses that the legal issues need to be resolved. There is an ongoing case against the Director General of Health, and future extensions can be obtained beyond 31 December 2024. The council needs to heed the warnings. No one can tell you to carry out an unlawful directive. Relating to the second recommendation, as previously discussed, the NTP report identified 52 of 55 human IQ studies that showed a lowering of IQ, the average of which was a 7 IQ point reduction. New research, Grungine 2023 identified that 1 IQ point is lost at 0.3 part per million. He then applied a safety factor of 10, which identified the safe level where no at-risk subset groups, pregnant mothers and babies, were harmed was 0.03 part per million, effectively 0. We fluoridate at 0.7 to 1 part per million. 1 part per million is 33 times that level. Most importantly, the Ministry of Health is relying on an erroneous point made in the 2014 Prime Minister Chief Science Advisor report that has been continued in the 2021 update. Here is the error, and it is the key to understanding this issue. The report includes this incorrect statement. Further, the claim shift of less than 1 standard deviation suggests that this is likely to be a measurement or statistical artifact of no functional significance. This statement is incorrect. 1 standard deviation is 15 IQ points. The research that the report is relating to is the 2012 Harvard review, which found a 7 IQ point reduction. 7 IQ points is absolutely significant. Lead lowered IQ by 4.25 IQ points, and we don't argue about lead not being neurotoxic. The Ministry of Health defended lead right up until 1996 when they took it out of leaded paint and leaded petrol. 20 years later, research by Rubin 2017 found that lead was lowering children's IQ. Many countries had banned lead in the late 70s, 80s, but the Ministry of Health defended lead right up until 1996. This recommendation simply involves writing a letter to the Director General of Health, identifying all of the recent high-quality research and pointing out that the Council has received the concerns of the community. The request is asking for the Director General of Health to arrange the independent review, not the Council to undertake that review. Relating to the third recommendation, the tribunals in New Plymouth 2011 and Hamilton 2013 both returned votes against fluoridation, continuing because the evidence was able to be consumed over a period of time in a fair and even-handed manner. Indeed, a tribunal has been determined to be the most appropriate way to deal with these complex issues. The Ministry of Health is a biased entity with a policy position to promote fluoridation. In fact, the Ministry of Health is in the minority. They are out of step with the Ministry of Health equivalents in continental Europe. Not one country in continental Europe fluoridates their water supply. So we're saying the Ministry of Health knows more than France, Germany, Austria, Italy, Denmark, Sweden, etc.
That's just the 4 minutes, so yeah.
The reason the Te Awamutu and Kiki Community Board continually comes back on this issue is because it is a dynamic, evolving issue, both nationally and internationally. Currently, there's the US court case, which the ruling should be coming out any day now on the neurotoxicity of fluoride. Our goal is to not be deliberately argumentative, rather raise concerns about the safety of our most vulnerable and unborn children and infants exposed to excess fluoride. Please support an independent and transparent review of the science so that we can finally move on.
Thank you, Kane. Thank you. So, good presentation. Any comments or questions? Oh, yes, Roger.
I think this is through you, Madam Chair. In terms of the 3 parts of the motion that we have in front of us, is it possible to treat each of those individually?
Oh, thanks for the question, Roger. And we've already discussed that, you know.
Need to reword.
Oh, okay, so it is possible, but we might need to reword some of the recommendations, that's all. Yeah, so will you be able to do that, Joe, and put it up on the screen? Is that right? What is the rewording that's needed?
It's just because you've got the agrees not to at the end of all of the parts. So you change that one. So you're noting everything, get rid of the does not agree, and then we divide them into separate ones. Because otherwise you're missing the doesn't agree at the end.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is that all right with you, Roger? Is that okay?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, okay. I do have a question about how best to handle the input from the Cambridge Community Board. Like you mentioned that they are looking at the issue because at the moment they're the community that's directly affected. Yeah, and you mentioned, I think, Kane, that they are looking at having it on an agenda item in the future?
Yeah, I understand
Oh,
that's the case.
actually,
yeah.
I see Monty's, he's used it on.
Could I
it,
answer
yeah,
that,
yeah.
being a member of the
Yeah.
Cambridge Community Board? So Kane presented to the recent Cambridge Community Board meeting. It was in the public forum. Therefore, no ability to discuss or make a decision because it wasn't an agendaed item. It was left as an open question whether the community board might like to entertain it being on a future agenda. I'm obviously not the chair of that, and so I'm not in control of the agenda, but it's no more advanced than that is what I'd suggest. So it would be incorrect to say there's imminent feedback coming from Cambridge Community Board, I would believe.
Okay, thank you.
Just on that point, there was a, Joe Davis did send an email out, which I can read to you with your permission.
Yeah, that would be really helpful, actually, Martin. Thank you.
So it was to Kane, Dawn, myself, the mayor and deputy mayor. It says, Kia ora, Kane, thank you for presenting to us at the public forum last week. While we acknowledge your request for a decision on the feedback to council regarding the fluoridation of our water supply, standard orders prevent any debate or decisions on matters raised during the public forum. Due to this, we were unable to provide you with the answers to your questions last week. Having considered this further, the matter of fluoride is not something we will be requesting a report on future agendas. We are aware this matter is being addressed at Service Delivery Committee tomorrow.
Okay, oh, right, that's good, because I didn't want to be interfering in community board meeting business. Yeah, over to you, Mike.
All right. Yeah, I don't mind interfering. Hey, I'm surprised at the silence from the Cambridge community on this topic, to be fair. And she brought up some points that resonated with me a little bit there around the lead, which as a kid, I used to use it all the time, painting the bottom of boats. And if you look at asbestos, it was in a lot of the products that we used until we decided we couldn't, or were told we couldn't. And I guess for me, it's that question of, you know, when did people know that it wasn't great for us before the laws changed that we couldn't use it? And just possibly, maybe this is one of those, but maybe it's not. But I am pretty stunned at the Cambridge disengagement around this topic. Now, I don't know if it's disengagement because people just really aren't that aware of it, because you can think you've advertised something, given people a lot of time, I guess, to look at something, but a lot of people, as been mentioned in some of these other who this morning, don't read everything. So I'm pleased, Roger, that you did ask for this to be broken down into the three parts, and we had discussed that prior to this meeting, actually. Because I actually would like the Cambridge community, whether it's through the community board or not, but to actually engage in this as a community. Not that it's that we don't have to consult. Just because we don't have to consult doesn't mean you don't have to. Yeah, so that doesn't wash with me as a councillor and as someone living in Cambridge. So I think however we vote here, doing it individually gives us each the opportunity to actually put forward what we think here. But my challenge to the Cambridge community is actually, I think this is worth engaging with, worth having a conversation around beyond what's happened so far, which is fairly silent. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Now I've got Monty first, then Roger, I think, and then I've got some other people which I'll address later.
Okay, following from Councillor Pettit's comments, I've got a pretty clear view on this that doesn't align with Councillor Pettit or the points you've made, Kane. And it's the argument for me is it's pretty clear, and it goes like this. You might turn out to be right on all this, and I'm making no judgment about the rightness or the wrongness of the science or your position, okay? But the appropriate place for this to be dealt with is at the Director General of Health. level, and you and your group engaging with them is all appropriate. The High Court action for the judicial review of the decision, entirely appropriate. I've got no problem with any of that, and that is all the correct procedure for me. What I don't like is community boards and territorial authorities almost being used as kind of leverage in this debate. To me, that's an inappropriate use of what we're here for. Okay, not inappropriate, and like I'm not saying, you know, it's not a pejorative term. That it's more just I don't think it's the way forward. The way forward is to engage with the Director General of Health. This is how science works, right? Science is this fluid moving thing. As scientific evidence builds up, opinions change and so on. And you're operating in that space, and I think you are most effective in that space engaging at Ministry of Health level. So for me, this isn't a local community issue. This is a complex scientific debate best handled at Director General of Health level. And so I don't think that we should be engaging in this myself, okay?
Okay. Well, you are allowed to respond to the person that asked you questions, and then I have other questions that are
Yep,
waiting.
thanks. Yeah, so the thing is, Mike, that the Director General of Health does not take feedback. So we have pointed out the, you know, mistake, I'm going to use that word as opposed to the fraud word, that they are not accepting the 7 IQ point reduction. They will not listen. So therefore, it's incumbent upon the communities to go back and point that out. That is why we're going via the councils. And there's a pretty clear view, 8 out of 10 councils are now pushing back. This is a national issue where councils are pushing back now.
Okay, thank you. Now I've got other questions. So Liz? and
Yeah,
Gail,
yeah. Look, this obviously has been, I guess, oh, sorry, Roger, but I haven't had a turn yet and you've already had a turn. So we'll come back to you later. Look, this has been canvassed around our table for a number of times. And I guess the message has always been clear. This is a health issue. We believe there is a government organisation already set up who has far more skill and I guess education around this matter than we do around this table. So again, echoing a lot of what Monty has said, the DHB, the Director of Health, this I still feel sits with them. But coming back to Mike's comments, I agree as a community, this is a conversation, and Cambridge, in my mind, and Te Awamutu have been reasonably silent on this. I believe that when fluoride was, I guess, started in Cambridge, that the matter was highlighted through our local papers, through social media, and I think people have actually just chosen, they've made a choice for themselves. So although it's been silent, I think people will choose. They will choose to drink the water or they will choose not to. And there are alternatives to drinking non-fluoridated water by purchasing elsewhere. So I believe that's where our community sits at the moment. But I do feel that the issue was canvassed at the time and that this is simply a choice that people will make for their own whānau and their family and those that they look after. So that's my thought on it.
So, sorry, the Supreme Court ruled in 2018 that it's compulsory medical treatment and it's unavoidable. So there is actually no option for people to avoid it. So that's per the Supreme Court. The minister.
Yeah, I know it wasn't actually a question that you asked. Yeah, so.
And sorry, just one quick one. The 7 IQ point reduction, the Ministry of Health, they don't know the science.
Okay. Thanks, Kane. I think what Liz is saying is that these are really complex health and science issues that none of us really have got, I suppose, the background to be able to make a judgment on. Now, I'm struggling a bit. Sorry, Roger, I forgot that you had already, but no offence intended.
I actually agree with parts of everything that has been said. My view on this is that it's the ongoing nature of the judicial review, which is going on, and there's already been a precedent set by the council that has requested the time extension through until the end of the year. And that's the part of the three clauses that we have in the comment here. I agree with the first one. I think we should write to ask for the extension. I don't think it's a decision that we should have to make. But in terms of asking for that extension, I believe that the discussions that will be ongoing in the review will actually come out with a determination. And therefore, I think we should ask for that extension to allow that determination to be made. But I don't think we should actively become involved in either of the other two, which I believe are a matter of health and the Department of Health. So I would support the first clause, but not the last two, because I think that enables that time to be put in place.
So just on that point, I think Dawn would like to make a response.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. That first one doesn't actually relate to Waipawa District Council. So at the moment, we do not have a date for implementation at all. That date relates to Nelson City Council and their implementation. So we still have been working with the ministry over the design of how the fluoridation may work within our water supplies. We have no agreement as yet, so we have no date of implementation to extend. So this was for us. Is not something that we can proceed with because we do not have a date yet.
In fact, what you might be saying is it's inappropriate for us to take that action until such time as we do have an idea of a date, and it could be safely left until that time?
Yeah, that was the idea in the report is if council decided they wish to ask for an extension of time, the appropriate time to do that is when we've got a date to start fluoridating. We would then request a delay in that time frame. We haven't got that time frame yet, so we keep that option open for when that arises.
Okay, thanks. That's quite helpful for me.
The clarification there then for me is, will that come back to us when we have a date of implementation, so we could make the decision whether or not to apply for an extension until the judicial review is completed?
Yes, we would hope that either before we get our date, all the reviews are finished and it's finalised, or if not, we would then request that extension of time. Yeah.
So there's no way that the implementation of fluoridation of our waters could occur without it coming back to us first?
Yeah.
There's no way?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, thank you.
So, sorry, Martin, you're saying that, yes. You
We would bring it back to council and update you and say that we've finished the installation, we're ready to go live. This is our go live date when we must go live by. Do you wish to seek an extension of time?
Okay, all right. So now I have a question from Lou. Anyone else? Okay, and then Dale Marie. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Just a point of clarification, Martin. As I believe it, when we receive the final date, we then have 9 months for implementation. Is that correct? As I read the act, as I looked at it the other day, and we have 9 months from the time that the government or the Director General ratifies our implementation, and then we have got a period of time that will be a positive.
Yep, so once we've agreed the final design and agreed the funding arrangement, we then get 9 months to install that equipment and start fluoridation. It's when the clock starts ticking. So we've got that time period then to seek further time, should we wish to.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, well, I've got Dale Marie and then Mike again.
Tēnā koutou, through the chair. I thank you, Roger, for the points of clarity, because that was really important. I'm going to side with Mike Pettit on this. I've got a couple of things. I'm really uncomfortable with being in local government position and having to sign off something that a community is not talking about, and that at my position, someone's going to be receiving something that they don't have a choice to have. Another thing is I'm wondering whether this is a treaty breach and if any of the iwi entities are picking this up more around the Māori and how the Māori of the water is being affected by something being injected into it. And that is something that I will point out because we are worrying about that with our Cambridge project and the way that we are reinserting the water back into the river. So I'm just going to point that out. We have now know that the Director General has been wrong in some of the decisions that they have made in the past around consent. And so I'm just going to have it noted, please, for the minutes. I'm really uncomfortable about the fluoride issue. I've done some significant reading around other councils and their positioning. And at this stage, yeah, I'll just have it noted. I'm really uncomfortable with this. And I think this could be a treaty breach. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you. Okay, and then Andrew. Oh, sorry, Mike, sorry. Yeah, Mike, then Andrew.
That's right.
I'm not
Tough
following
day,
through.
tough day at the office. Yeah, hey, just I'm not actually going to respond to a couple of people, but yeah, my one here, I guess, is actually number 2 because I actually understood number 1 because Martin did make it clear in there about the dates and things, and the number 2 is not actually really. That's not about the community. That's just requesting the Director General of Health that, hey, it looks like there's some new information of significance. Let's go back and review this. That's what number 2 says to me. So it's not a, yeah, it's just a, hey, have we got this right sort of thing? There's some new research. We should be investigating it.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Andrew.
Thanks. So how long before the clock starts ticking, Martin? When's the designs going to be completed?
Yeah, open-ended question, that one. I mean, we've been working with them since the original mandate to fluoridate. It's been hard work and slow, and other people obviously been ahead of us in the game. That's fine. I don't think anybody's rushing at the moment.
Interesting.
Until there's a formal decision one way or another, I don't think anybody's rushing into progressing too much anyway. I think there's a natural hold happening.
All right. Okay. So I think we've pretty much had our questions answered. Yeah. I haven't spoken about it yet. I think that it's sensible to wait for Waipa to be ready to fluoridate and then review where we are at in the processes. So I'm actually comfortable with not actioning that first part of the notice of motion that we act on. About the independent panel of experts, I mean, my understanding is that the correspondence that we had from the Ministry of Health earlier with regard to this issue is they did give an assurance that they were keeping a watching brief on how the science was evolving. And, you know, Kane's helpfully pointed out to us that there are legal actions and other sort of decision points that are actually being progressed as well, which I actually feel that the Ministry of Health will take account of. Yeah, so I'm not feeling that, you know, the need for an independent panel of experts to be involved. And I'm also very conscious that given our budgeting and how tight things are, I would be disappointed at funds being directed from something else to fund that. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, so I think we're ready to do our voting on the motion. So, oh, sorry, we're just going to wait for Joe. Is that right? And you're going to put it up on the big screen for us, Joe? Yeah, thank you.
So have we gone to an amending motion straight away, Claire? Is that what's happened here?
This is a proposal for you to consider if you want to do it on parts. So maybe if I just show you how I've drafted it, and then you can decide whether you want to take the motion as it is in the report or whether you want to take it in parts. Just in B, I've just added in and Kiki up there because of Timu and Kiki Community Board. I took out the agrees not to support the recommendations from at the bottom of B. So the purpose now of resolution B would just be for you to note the 3 recommendations that came through from the board there. And then what I've done is pulled each of those three elements from B and put the preface in front of them, agrees not to support the recommendation from the Te Murangiki Community Board that council, and then done the same with all of them. So that really kind of puts C, I think, if you were you couldn't take B in parts as it was, so that really kind of creates the mechanism in C, D and E for you to take what was B in parts if that is something that you wish to do.
Can I just raise a point of order? Is that at the moment, we're talking of the 31st of December, 2024. That's not 9 months away. That's actually shortening the time, not lengthening it. I'm saying, look, hold on, what are we voting here for? We don't want it. Martin said that we're still in limbo as far as doing this, and we're certainly not 9 months away from the end of May for the 31st of December.
I think we have to take what the notice of motion was from the Te Murangiki Community Board, and that's what was the wording of that motion. And then we are deciding whether or not we're going to agree or agrees not to support. Yeah. Yes. So Andrew.
Yeah, look, having heard all of the debate and discussion and facts and whatever, and the fact that the 9 months haven't started and there's no hurry, which I'm quite happy about, I would just like to move the original motion that's sitting there.
Oh, okay.
So I'm quite happy to do that.
Okay. All right. So, and you're willing to second that?
I'm happy to second it.
Yeah, and then we'll see how that goes. And if it's if that's carried, then we don't have to consider an amendment.
Yeah.
So,
And people can record
it's
their
just I'm a
votes.
bit worried about the discussion about the need for the community, to have some engagement on it. But it could happen separately to the motion. Yeah, we don't actually have the jurisdiction to actually direct a community to do some engagement, do we?
And we've got the 2 Cambridge Community Board members around the table as well. If they feel that things have changed, they can certainly go back to the community board.
Yeah.
With the comments from this meeting. I suspect that the community Chair Joe will be listening anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
So in terms of making sure the community have had enough opportunity, I'd like to think that it could still go back to them.
Yeah, okay, cool. And we did get that feedback from that email that the Community Board Cambridge is expecting this committee to be dealing with this issue. All right, so I'm being very careful procedurally because I have a mover and a seconder for that motion, for the recommendation that is in our agenda. So I'd like to put that motion. All in favour, please say aye. And against? All right, so I've got 3 against. And would you like Roger, you weren't, but were you against or for? I just want to know whether or not you want to recorded that you voted against the motion. Yes, yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. So we've got 4 against, and so that means that it has been carried. And I'm just checking who wants their vote against this motion to be recorded.
Everyone?
Okay.
Are you voting against?
Oh.
I think you put the motion, it was clear at the time there were 3 against.
Yeah.
And I think we might have to redo it or something else, but I think that Roger and Philip, you made it really unclear which way you were going. So Chair, I think you need to do something.
Joe, could we have some guidance on this? Like I was under the impression there were 3 that voted against, but since then trying to get clarity on who voted against, now that's changed.
I think if it's unclear, that I think the wise thing would be to put the motion again, because I think what we do need to have clarity on who's voting for and against, and everyone needs to be really clear on what their
right.
position is.
Thank you. That's very helpful. So we've got a mover, Andrew, seconder, Liz. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against?
So
Okay.
against is councillor Paget, councillor Gordon, councillor Morgan, committee member Kara and councillor Cole.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but it has passed. It's carried?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Really appreciate everyone's cooperation in getting this dealt with. Thank you. And thanks for your forbearance on my part here. All right. Okay, so now we're moving on to our next item, which is on the streetlight maintenance and renewal contract. It's on page 96 of our agenda. And who is speaking to this? Brian, you're back.
I'm
Yeah.
doing it right now.
Yeah, that Martin undertook to come back. Yeah, okay. All right. Welcome, Brian. Nice to see you again. And this time we're doing this contract, for the streetlight maintenance and renewal.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Quiet, please. We have Brian our full attention. Thank you.
So if I could take this report as read, it's a relatively straightforward 3-year contract with the rights of renewal for 2 further 1-year periods. And so this is the first 1-year period, and it is the contract for maintaining all the streetlights in the district. And as you can see there in the paper, it does not require an extension to the contract sum because the previous contract sum does cover the additional year, but it is a matter of council approving the extension of the contract.
Okay, thank you. Oh, you're happy to move? All right. Oh, thank you, Monty. All in favour? Yeah. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Gosh, excellent. All right. And then the next item is the street cleaning, and you're doing that too, Brian?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, very much along the same lines. This contract was let at the same time as the street lighting one, so it's had 3 years at the end of June this year, and we would like to extend it for another year. This one does require an extension to the contract sum. The 3-year period, we're going to spend all of that and then a little bit more because of those elements there, cost fluctuations, storm damage, additional streets that have been cleaned in new subdivisions and the like. So there is an extension to the contract sum and the budget there, which comes from the draft annual plan for the next 12 months.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. All right, you're gonna, thank you, Bruce, and Dale Marie's going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. All right, and our next item is contract signed under delegated authority, and Dawn usually speaks to this.
Kia ora, through you, Madam Chair. Yep, 3 contracts here that were new contracts awarded, and 2 where additional work was incorporated into our current contract, one of which we've talked about previously was the CCTV one with those new installations and ongoing increased operational costs associated with that. So welcome any questions.
Okay. Anyone wants to ask any questions? No? Anyone willing to move? Thank you, Andrew. And Phil's going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So now we have a resolution to exclude the public. Thank you, Liz. And a seconder, Dale Marie. Thank you. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to have a morning tea break.